Hello, hello. Happy Thursday afternoon. I just got to be in my bonnet to read. My people in Discord are like, are people that text me or comment or whatever. When do you normally record? When do you read? I read when the spirit moves me, as my grandmother used to say. So here I am, moved and ready to read. We are on chapter 30, Pride and Prejudice. And it is page, can't see without my glasses. Let's see, 158. So we're getting there. We're looking close to halfway. What do y'all think? This is the part we've read. This is the part we still need to read. So let's read. Sir William stayed only a week at Hunsford, but his visit was long enough to convince him of his daughter's being most comfortably settled. So the daddy had sent the daughter off somewhere else to live. He's come to check it out, and he feels good about it. And of her possessing such a husband and such as a neighbor as were not often met with. So he's happy. While Sir William was with them, Mr. Collins devoted his mornings to driving him out in his gig and showing him the country. But when he went away, the whole family returned to their usual employments. And Elizabeth was thankful to find that they did not see more of her cousin by the alteration. For the chief of the time between breakfast and dinner was now passed by him either at work in the garden or in reading and writing and looking out the window in his own book room, which fronted the road. In other words, when Sir William was there, the men went out and spent men time. Now Sir William has left. Elizabeth was a little worried that she'd be stuck with more time with Mr. Collins, but he likes his routine. Hey, Siddharth. He likes his routine, and he still is busy in the day from breakfast until dinner, and she doesn't have to deal with him very much. The room in which the ladies sat was backwards. Elizabeth at first had rather wondered Charlotte should not prefer the dining parlor for common use. It was a better-sized room and had a pleasanter aspect, but she soon saw that her friend had an excellent reason for what she did, for Mr. Collins would undoubtedly have been much less in his own apartment had they sat in one equally lively, and she gave Charlotte credit for the arrangement. Haley, hey, I'm feeling better. You can hear the little scratch in my throat, but thanks for asking. Oh, Siddharth, that's a good idea. We'll watch Pride and Prejudice on Discord. He's going to set that up. I don't know how to do the technology of it. So we'll have to start, when we get to the last few chapters, we'll start selling the idea. We might need to do a trial run with our group to just see if it works, because I don't understand it at all. From the drawing room, they could distinguish nothing in the lane, and were indebted to Mr. Collins for the knowledge what carriages went along, and how often, especially Mr. Borg, drove in by her phaeton, which he never failed coming to inform them of, though it happened almost every day. She not unfrequently stopped at the parsonage and had a few minutes' conversation with Charlotte, but was scarcely ever prevailed on to get out. Very few days passed in which Mr. Collins did not walk to Rosings, and not many in which his wife did not think it necessary to go likewise, until Elizabeth recollected that there might be other family livings to be disposed of. She could not understand the sacrifice of so many hours. Now and then they were honored with a call from her ladyship, and nothing escaped her observation that was passing in the room during those visits. She examined into their employments, looked at their work, and advised them to do it differently, found fault with the arrangement of the furniture, or detected the housemaid in negligence, and if she accepted any refreshment, seemed to do it only for the sake of finding out that Mrs. Collins' joints of meat were too large for her family. Elizabeth soon perceived that though this great lady was not in the commission of the peace for the county, she was a most active magistrate in her own parish, the minutest concerns of which were carried to her by Mr. Collins, and whenever any of the cottagers were disposed to be quarrelsome, discontented, or too poor, she sallied forth into the village to settle their differences. She loves being the queen of her domain. Silence their complaints and scold them into harmony and plenty. The entertainment of dining at Rossing's was repeated about twice a week, and allowing for the loss of Sir William and there being only one card table in the evening, every such entertainment was the counterpart of the first. Their other engagements were few, as the style of living of the neighborhood in general was beyond the Collinses' reach. This, however, I have a test tomorrow. All right, do well, Siddharth. I know you will. You'll always do great. Started watching Emma, Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't think I've seen that one. I like Little Women, but I mean, that was one of my favorite childhood books. So I never thought that a movie would do it justice. And the one I saw, it wasn't what I liked. Haley, I know you do a lot of studying too. Ishan Singh. I already have I love when I can say this. I already have it in my playlist, Ishan. So you can go, I was actually teaching class with that one, so it's in the classroom. Luck on the test. I know tests make me nervous, even they were for work when I have presentations to give and things like that. I have a big project coming up the 1st of December, and I'm already getting nervous about it. But it doesn't help anything to get nervous about it. I lost my place so quickly. This, however, was no evil to Elizabeth, and upon the whole, she spent her time comfortably enough. There were half hours of pleasant conversation with Charlotte, and the weather was so fine for the time of year that she often had great enjoyment out of doors. Her favorite walk, and where she frequently went while the others were calling on Lady Catherine, was along the open grove which edged that side of the park, where there was a nice sheltered path, which no one seemed to value but herself, and where she felt beyond the reach of Lady Catherine's curiosity. In this quiet way, the first fortnight of her visit soon passed away. All right, who remembers what a fortnight is? I tell you all the time, and it is not a video game. So how long is a fortnight? She's been there 2 weeks. In case you didn't know, I went ahead and answered it for you. Easter was approaching, and the week preceding it was to bring an addition to the family at Rosings, which in so small a circle must be important. Elizabeth had heard soon after her arrival that Mr. Darcy was expected there in the course of a few weeks, and though there were not many of her acquaintance whom she did not prefer, his coming would furnish one comparatively new look at their Rosings parties, and she might be amused in seeing how hopeless Miss Bingley's designs on him were by his behavior to his cousin, for whom he was evidently destined by Lady Catherine, who talked of his coming with the greatest satisfaction, spoke of him in terms of the highest admiration, and seemed almost angry to find that he had already been frequently seen by Miss Lucas and herself. His arrival was soon known at the parsonage, for Mr. Collins was walking the whole morning within view of the lodges opening into the Hunsford Lane, in order to have the earliest assurance. He's such a busybody. He waited. He knew he was coming, so he just made sure his work was all around the lane that he would come in. Well, you could write a whole documentary on the different adaptations of Emma, Haley. I think that's pretty cool. You're like a little mini expert on that. And fortnight equals 2 weeks. You are right. His arrival was soon known at the... Oh, I already read that. And after making his bow as the carriage turned into the park, hurried home with the great intelligence. On the following morning, he hastened to Rosings to pay his respects. There were 2 nephews of Lady Catherine to require them, for Mr. Darcy had brought with him a Colonel Fitzwilliam, the younger son of his uncle, Lord blah, 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 blah. Now, why do you think they don't put the name of the uncle? We talked about this a little bit when they don't put the name of the city. So nobility, they're all lords of certain areas. So if they said whatever one, people of the day would be like, oh, I know him. That's not really him. That's not really true. And it takes away that created sense of reality that she's building. So you just say Lord of blank, and then people speculate, oh, I wonder if it was this one or that one. Dean Walters, I haven't heard from you in a while. I don't think all of Macbeth is on my playlist, but because I was teaching that one too, but it's there. A summary, I would say go to there's a lot of those on YouTube, but my question is, what would it take for you to brutally murder your best friend and your favorite cousin? I mean, that's kind of where Macbeth ended up. But we know that from the beginning. Why did he do it? And was he justified in doing it? And was it his fault? Was it the witch's fault? Was it his wife's fault? Was it his ambition? Well, the ambition of the day said that was the ultimate thing to achieve. So what do you think, Dean Walters? Macbeth is one of my favorite. And to the great surprise of all the party, when Mr. Collins returned, the gentleman accompanied him. Charlotte had seen them from her husband's room, crossing the road, and immediately running into the other, told the girls what an honor they might expect, adding, "I may thank you, Eliza, for this piece of civility. Mr. Darcy would never have come so soon to wait upon me." Elizabeth had scarcely time to disdain all right to the compliment before their outright, all right, I don't know what that means, but before their approach was announced by the doorbell, and shortly afterwards the three gentlemen entered the room. Colonel Fitzwilliam, who led the way, was about 30, not handsome, but in person and address, most truly the gentleman. Not great looking, but a nice guy. You're welcome, Dean. Haley, that would be maybe a good, if you're going to be a librarian, you may have to do a master's work. That might be a good master's thesis to do. Dylan Fenton. Anybody else have finals? Y'all are already in finals, midterms? Read Macbeth on my playlist. But Haley, remind me, I don't think I read all of it, did I? I mean, I ended it, but I might have skipped some on that one. Just me, maybe, Dylan. I don't have any finals this week. But Siddharth, one of our regulars, left because he said he had a big test. He didn't say it was a final, but he said he had to study. Trimester finals. Gotcha. I'm used to semesters down here in Louisiana. So Mr. Fitzwilliam, is a nice guy. Mr. Darcy looked just as he had been used to look in Hertfordshire, paid his compliments with his usual reserve to Mrs. Collins, and whatever might be his feelings towards her friend, met her with every appearance of composure. Elizabeth merely curtsied to him without saying a word. Colonel Fitzwilliam entered into a conversation directly with the readiness and ease of a well-bred man, and talked very pleasantly. But his cousin, after having addressed a slight observation in the house and garden to Mrs. Collins, sat for some time without speaking to anybody. At length, however, his civility was so far awakened as to inquire of Elizabeth after the health of her family. She answered him in the usual way, and after a moment's pause added, "My eldest sister has been in town these 3 months. Have you never seen her there?" She was perfectly sensible that he never had, but she wished to see whether he would betray any consciousness of what had passed between the Bingleys and Jane. And she thought he looked a little confused as he answered that he had never been so fortunate as to meet Miss Bennet. The subject was pursued no farther, and the gentleman soon afterwards went away. So that's good luck, Dylan. That's true. Because I want them to hear the famous lines, but I wanted them to understand the story. That's the problem with reading that older language to younger students. You have to really dig for it. I think it would be interesting. I don't know that it's been done. Okay, we are to, how far is 31? Oh, it's not long. So let's keep reading. Chapter 31 is on page 162. Colonel Fitzwilliam's manners were very much admired at the parsonage, and the ladies all felt that he must add considerably to the pleasure of their engagements at the Rossings. I never know how to say that. It was some days, however, before they received an invitation thither, for while there were visitors in the house, they could not be necessary. It was not till Easter Day, almost a week after the gentleman's arrival, that they were honored by such an attention, and then they were merely asking on leaving church to come there in the evening. For the last week they had seen very little of either Lady Catherine or her daughter. Colonel Fitzwilliam had called at the parsonage more than once during the time, but Mr. Darcy they had only seen at church. The invitation was accepted, of course, and at a proper hour they joined the party in Lady Catherine's drawing room. Her ladyship received them civilly, but it was plain that their company was by no means so acceptable as when she could get nobody else, and she was, in fact, almost engrossed by her nephews, speaking to them, especially to Darcy, much more than any other person in the room. Hi, Sydney. Oh, I think you said I love it because I don't see so well. Well, Sydney, thank you. I love to be loved, and I'm sure I'd love you too if I got to know you. I appreciate that. See, it's always nice to be nice, isn't it? It's just a good thing. Thank you for putting good stuff out there, Sydney. I hope that karma comes back to you. Colonel Fitzwilliam seemed really glad to see them. Anything was a welcome relief to him at Rosings. And Mrs. Collins' pretty friend had moreover caught his fancy very much. So that means Elizabeth. He now seated himself by her and talked so agreeably of Kent and Hertfordshire, of traveling and staying at home, of new books and music, that Elizabeth had never been half so well entertained in that room before. And they conversed with so much spirit and flow as to draw the attention of Lady Catherine herself, as well as of Mr. Darcy. His eyes had been soon and repeatedly turned towards them with a look of curiosity, and that her ladyship, after a while, shared the feeling, was more openly acknowledged, for she did not scruple to call out. Haley, the older language is a bit harder to decipher. Yeah, it is. I like digging in. It's fun for me, but when you're a normal high school student that just wants to get the grade and get on with it, you don't want to figure out your these and thouists and goists and dearests and all those kinds of things. So here comes Miss Busybody, Miss Lady Catherine, to see what's going on with Fitzwilliam and Elizabeth. I'm very glad to hear such a good account. Oh, no. She said, what are you telling Miss Bennet? Let me hear what it is. We're speaking of music, madam, said he, when no longer able to avoid a reply. Of music? Then pray speak aloud. It is of all subjects my delight. I must have my share in the conversation. If you're speaking of music, she knows everything. There are few people in England, I suppose, who have more true enjoyment of music than myself, or a better natural taste. If I had ever learnt, I should have been a great proficient, and so would Anne if her health had allowed her to apply. I'm confident that she would have performed delightfully. How does Georgiana get on, Darcy? Mr. Darcy spoke with affectionate praise of his sister's proficiency. I'm very glad to hear of such a good account of her, said Lady Catherine, and pray tell her from me that she cannot expect to excel if she does not practice a great deal. I assure you, madam, he replied, that she does not need such advice. She practices very constantly. Hello, Henry Harris. I'll let you guys continue, Haley and Sydney, with your chat, and I'll keep reading. So much the better. It cannot be done too much. And to my musicians out there, that's to you. It cannot be done too much. Just practice till you're perfect. When I next write to her, I shall charge her not to neglect it on my account. I often tell young ladies that no excellence in music is to be acquired without constant practice. I have told Miss Bennet several times that she will never play really well unless she practices more. And though Mrs. Collins has no instrument, she's very welcome, as I've often told her, to come to Rosings every day and play on the pianoforte in Miss Jenkinson's room. We would be in nobody's way, in that part of the house. That was a slap. It's like she can play in the governess's room and she won't be in our way. I'm trying to put her at ease, and she really means I don't want to have to entertain her. So Mr. Darcy looked a little ashamed of his aunt's ill breeding and made no answer. When coffee was over, Colonel Fitzwilliam reminded Elizabeth of having promised to play to him, and she sat down directly to the instrument. He drew a chair near her. I don't remember this love interest. Lady Catherine listened to half a song and then talked as before to her other nephew, till the latter walked away from her, and moving with his usual deliberation towards the pianoforte, stationed himself so as to command a full view of the fair performer's countenance, her face. Elizabeth saw what he was doing, and at the first convenient pause, turned to him with an arch smile and said, You mean to frighten me, Mr. Darcy, by coming in all this state to hear me. But I will not be alarmed, though your sister does play so well. There is a stubbornness about me that can never be frightened at the will of others. My courage always rises with every attempt to intimidate me. How many of you are like that? If somebody's trying to make you feel uncomfortable or embarrassed or bullied, do you rise up and just get more determined, or do you cower and like, okay, never mind, I'll stop playing? Some people do just want to move on the books and get the grade. Yeah. In class, we always watch your vids and then there were none. Well, Sydney, that's good to hear. I love that teachers are willing to use this tool. It's fairly new, huh? Just the book, not Sydney. Haley's a little bit, she's not in high school and she's a future librarian. So she's a book lover like me and she's reads just to read for fun. But I like Elizabeth's spirit. She's like, you came over here to try and intimidate me, but I'm not going to let you intimidate me. In middle school, Sydney, I had somebody come on the other day and said their mothers had them read since they were 6, and he was 10 now. Can't imagine what books I had that a 6-year-old would be interested in. I shall not say that you are mistaken, he replied, because you could not really believe me to entertain any design of alarming you, and I've had the pleasure of your acquaintance long enough to know that you find great enjoyment in occasionally professing opinions which in fact are not your own. Like, you say things you don't mean. Elizabeth laughed heartily at this picture of herself and said to Colonel Fitzwilliam, your cousin will give you a very pretty notion of me and teach you not to believe a word I say. I am particularly unlucky in meeting with a person so well able to expose my real character in a part of the world where I had hoped to pass myself off with some degree of credit. Indeed, Mr. Darcy, it's very ungenerous in you to mention all that you knew to my disadvantage in Hertfordshire, and give me leave to say, very impolite too, for it is provoking me to retaliate, and such things may come out as will shock your relations to hear. I'm not afraid of you, said he, smiling. Pray let me hear what you have to accuse him of, cried Colonel Fitzwilliam. I should like to know how he behaves among strangers. You shall hear then, but prepare yourself for something very dreadful. She's going to be horrible, isn't she? Hello, Fareed. Good to see you. Thank you so much for their eyes for watching. God, Lily, I'm glad it helped with quarantine. Had no idea when I was reading these books originally that we would be coming into quarantine and how people would be using this channel. And as a teacher and one who loves to share knowledge with teenagers or with young people, it's made me super, super happy that it's worked that way. So what embarrassing thing is Elizabeth? Do you think she's going to say everything about Wickham? It's going to be awkward, I think. The first time of my ever seeing him in Hertfordshire, you must know, was at a ball. And at this ball, what do you think he did? He danced only 4 dances. I'm sorry to pain you, but so it was. He danced only 4 dances, though gentlemen were scarce, and to my certain knowledge, more than one lady was sitting down in want of a partner. Mr. Darcy, you cannot deny the fact. I had not at that time the honor of knowing any lady in the assembly beyond my own party. True, and nobody can ever be introduced in a ballroom. Well, Colonel Fitzwilliam, what do I play next? My fingers await your orders. Perhaps, said Darcy, I should have judged better had I sought an introduction, but I am ill qualified to recommend myself to strangers. He's trying to explain I was shy. I was uncomfortable. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Good Southern answer. Hey, Kristen, how are you? Shall we ask your cousin the reason of this, said Elizabeth, still addressing Colonel Fitzwilliam. Shall we ask him why a man of sense and education and who has lived in the world is ill qualified to recommend himself to strangers? I can answer your question, said Fitzwilliam, without applying to him. It is because he will not give himself the trouble. I certainly have not the talent which some people possess, said Darcy, of conversing easily with those I've never seen before. I cannot catch their tone of conversation or appear interested in their concerns, as I have often seen done. He doesn't have great people skills. Maybe he was on the spectrum of autism. I never thought about that before with Darcy. Sydney, I'm jumping in and nosily reading y'all's conversation. I have a 21-year-old son. I knew that, Haley, because you had told me that about you voted this year. So keep chatting. My fingers, said Elizabeth, do not move over this instrument in the masterly manner which I see so many women's do. They have not the same force or rapidity and do not produce the same expression. But then I have always supposed it to be my own fault because I would not take the trouble of practicing. It is not that I do not believe my fingers as capable as any other woman's of superior execution. Darcy smiled and said, "You are perfectly right. You have employed your time much better. No one admitted to the privilege of hearing you can think anything wanting. We neither of us perform to strangers." Here they were interrupted by Lady Catherine, who called out to know what they were talking of. Elizabeth immediately began playing again. Lady Catherine approached, and after listening for a few minutes, said to Darcy, "Miss Bennet would not play at all amiss if she practiced more, and could have the advantage of a London master. She has a very good notion of fingering, though her taste is not equal to Anne's. Anne would have been a delightful performer had her health allowed her to learn." Elizabeth looked at Darcy to see how cordially he assented to his cousin's praise, but neither at that moment nor at any other could she discern any symptom of love, and from the whole of his behavior to Miss de Bourgh she derived this comfort for Miss Bingley, that he might have been just as likely to marry her had she been his relation. Lady Catherine continued her remarks on Elizabeth's performance, mixing with them many instructions on execution and taste. Elizabeth received them with all the forbearance of civility, and at the request of the gentleman remained at the instrument till her ladyship's carriage was ready to take them all home. So Elizabeth is now the attention of two men, and Lady Catherine still, she grudgingly acknowledges she's got some talent, but she's not wealthy enough to have the training that she's deserving to make it worthwhile. Callie, hi. You read Their Eyes Were Watching God for AP Literature. I'm glad they really helped. That was a tough read. Had I not had a YouTube channel, I would have probably never finished the book because the dialect got me every time I tried to read it for myself. So I'm really glad it helped. All right. I think that's maybe my third most read book. Crucible is definitely my most. And for a long time, A Thousand Splendid Suns was. But I think it's neck and neck with And Then There Were None and A Thousand Splendid Suns. So, guys, I'm about to go. I'm going to go meet a friend for, I think, dinner. I'm not sure if we're just meeting for drinks or dinner. And then I got my reading in, so I don't have to feel guilty. I did all my work. And tomorrow's a pretty full day, but it is my off day. So hopefully I'll get one to read again. If you don't already have Discord on, jump on board with us and chat to see what we talk about. Hello, Demoney. What I just got done with A Thousand Splendid Suns. That's one of my favorites. I'm glad you did it. I hope you liked it. And you guys have a great evening. Good luck with your studies. Keep it up. I was telling my daughter's boyfriend the other day, and he was studying for a big exam, didn't feel good about it. Even if you don't love the course or don't think you're going to pursue that particular field, no bit of education is wasted. Everything, the older I get, the more I see that it all weaves back together. And at some point, I'm like, oh, that was helpful to me. I might not say, oh, algebra was helpful to me, but maybe the logic or an experience of tenacity or of a kind friend who helped me with homework, some educational experience built me to be a more qualified, adept, capable, competent person. So if focus is a problem, thank you, Demoney. If focus is a problem, talk to the people that can help you with that. That is a legitimate chemical thing. I'm not promoting drug use, Ritalin or any of those, but talk to the professionals that can either give you some strategies. That's what this channel came out of, because I used to teach kids with ADHD and dyslexia, kids on the spectrum. So there are skills and tools that are available to you to help you focus. There are breathing techniques, calming techniques, yoga. There's all kinds of things that are not medical. But if it is a chemical thing, stress, all the stress you guys are under, you're going to really struggle with attention. You guys need to acknowledge the amount of stress. Like, just your world is so uncertain right now. That's really stressful. Yoga is an amazing. Prayer and meditation, all those things are really great ways to help calm the mind. I used to have my kids keep sticky notes. So when it went, they wrote squirrel on their sticky note, or whatever that thought was that pops in your mind. put it there so your brain has it held. Your brain says, okay, that's been taken care of. Now I can cut back to the book. Or if you notice, that's why I stop and chat sometimes because my brain goes, that's too much. I'm hearing blah, 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 blah. So then I try and connect it to something. So it's like the shelf for my keys that, okay, I've put that idea somewhere and I've connected it to something I know. And that helps me with my reading comprehension. So that might be a trick to money that helps you take a self-evaluation. How stressed am I? When am I distracted? Am I reading at the wrong time? Do I have a lot of other things on my mind? Is the book just boring? I mean, sometimes they are. Is there some other tool I can use? And see what you can do to help yourself develop that focus. Yeah, you can still, hey, Siddharth, you just missed my tip on how to read, how to study. There's two really good yoga instructors on YouTube, and I follow along with those. And they'll do all different kinds of levels, so it's fun. It's not. Some of them even do. If you pay, you can join a class and do it from your home. I don't know if it's the same thing, but it is. It is better than nothing. So keep up the good work. What are their names? Caroline, Yoga with Adrienne. And Caroline, maybe just do yoga and Caroline. She's super skinny, blonde, middle-aged compared to y'all, but super fit. Caroline Jordan, might be Caroline Jordan. But the other one is definitely Yoga with Adrienne. So, all right, a shout out to my mom. This crazy piece of jewelry was hers. I remember when she bought it. Sometimes I miss her, and I tend to wear things that were hers just to make me feel close to her. So, enjoy this. Isn't it a crazy piece? I love the stone, talking about, being calm, get things that are sensory that make you feel better. Can we test out the telepathy thing tomorrow? Yeah, I'm not working full time tomorrow. So I've got a lot of things. I'm taking my granddaughter to a birthday party. So maybe in the morning, Siddharth, I know a lot of times you're busy, but I've got the doctor first thing and I've got a little gap, maybe. I'll text you on Discord and let you know if I have availability. All right, guys, it is time for me to go. I hope you have a great evening. Look at that little picture of me. Oh, Tutu, I think my voice is one of those that would put you to sleep. I need one of those good ASMR microphones and just calmly. My energy is usually pretty hyper, but I can just calm you down. Everything is going to be okay. Deep breath in and relax. Deep breath in and subscribe. Deep breath in and smash the bell. Deep breath in and keep reading. Read to you next time. See you.